Hey, it's Joe Parner here. Welcome to episode 112 of Insights. Really appreciate you being here. So here we are, third week of January 2026 is flying along already, as we can appreciate. Hey, I want to discuss with you or share with you something that I learned over the holidays, which was this incredible definition of intelligence that is not about emotional intelligence or social intelligence or even the intelligent quotient. So it's not IQ, EQ, or SQ. It's something else. And I'm going to cut straight to it now. This definition comes from a fellow called Naval Ravikant, and he said, and this is a very simple definition, yet it comes with so many different connotations and complexities, but we'll just cut to the simple version of it. And that is that intelligence is the ability to get the life that you want. Don't you love it? Isn't that simple? And it's not like the life that we want is something that we eventually land on and we've arrived and everything stops. Even if you happen to have the life that you want already, circumstances, situations are going to continue to evolve and change, where if we don't keep growing and expanding ourselves, we'll get to a point where we have a life that we don't want. Does that make sense? Or you may be listening to this going, tell me more, tell me how I can have a life that I want, because currently I have a life that I don't want. Or you might be listening to this in the sense that aspects of your life are great and you're loving it, and other aspects of your life are not. Perhaps your relationships are great, but your health is not, or whatever it might be. So whatever sort of mid end of the spectrums that you sit in terms of how well you have your life set up for yourself in a way that you want, well, whether you've got the life that you want or whether you don't, somewhere in between, we're going to explore how we can either hold on and not hold on, but how we can continue to expand the life that we want, or most importantly, to get to the life that we want. Okay, so let's hop in. Let's have a look at this. So to understand how to create and maintain and evolve the life that we want, we need to turn our attention back to 1896 to a fellow called Vilfredo Pareto. He coined what we now know in modern day as the 80-20 rule. Pareto was an economist. He discovered a pattern in numbers that was a universal pattern. And the 80-20 rule, put simply, is where 80% of the consequences are caused by 20% of the causes. We will spend 20% of our time, 80% of our time in 20% of our house. 20% of the coaches are making 80% of the money. Does that make sense? And I actually think that in today's modern day, because that was a long time ago, 1896, I actually believe you could strip that rule back all the way down to 90-10. I actually believe that there are 10% of our actions create 90% of our results. 10% of the causing or causative actions create 90% of the consequences. And I'm going to show you now how this is true for our psychological landscape, which is a fancy way of saying our mindset is that there is a certain relationship that if you can function that one well, it can turn open the door or turn open the key and open the door to 90% of the consequences or 90% of the results that we want. This will make more sense as I continue my story here. So we just came back from our road trip, and we had an 1,800-kilometer road trip with our Jeep. And an epiphany that I had whilst we were on our journey was the power that the key, or what we call the fob, the little key, the little remote control, all the cars have got these things called a fob where you can lock your car and open your boot and we'll do all those sorts of things. I was saying to my wife, the power that this one little thing that you can put in the palm of your hand has, the power that it has to interrupt the entire trip. If we were to lose that fob, obviously we wouldn't be able to access our Jeep. We couldn't access our luggage. We wouldn't be able to keep moving. The whole holiday would be interrupted for God knows how many days or hours or however long it would be. I wouldn't have a clue how to replace a fob of a Jeep hundreds of kilometers away from home. So the thought came to me was like, well, this is an example of like 1090 or 199, where this particular one little thing that might represent 1% of the entire Jeep can create 99% of the consequences if it's not working. So psychologically, there are aspects to our mindsets and what kinds of psychological relationships that we have that can impact how we can get the life that we want. So I'll cut straight to the chase of what that is, because one thing that I have been teaching now for specifically, deeply for the last 4 years specifically, is exploring our relationship with uncertainty. A lot of you follow my work and know that my field of specialty is what I call emotional fitness. And emotional fitness is fundamentally measured by the quality of your relationship with uncertainty. Emotional fitness is how to navigate the hard things in life with direction and clarity. Emotional fitness aspects of it is also learning how to let go of things or aspects of our life that have no business being in our life anymore. Emotional fitness is also about updating or upgrading the other powerful force that exists in our human condition, which is the power of our beliefs, our convenient assumptions, which is the definition of what a belief is. A belief is nothing more than a assumption that we've conveniently assumed to be true, that we've gathered evidence for, that perhaps worked for us back in 2010, but in 2026 doesn't seem to cut it anymore. So we need to upgrade those belief systems. Anyway, the point I'm making is that our relationship with uncertainty matters a lot. So what's this got to do with getting the life that we want? A lot, because something that I've discovered that's become obvious to me over the last 20 years in running workshops for thousands of people, the amount of times I've had people come to me and say, Joe, it's great that you're talking about, inspiring us in terms of like, the life that we want, but I don't know the life that I want. I'm really clear on what I don't want, and I've got no clarity on what I do want. Now, if you can relate to that, you're in the right podcast, because I'm going to clarify how to get to that other side, which is moving away from what you don't want and moving toward what you do want, right? But Joe, I don't know what I want. I know what I don't want. So let's have a look at this. Well, in the last episode, I shared with you a bit of a longer story about my background and the way that when I was stuck at Ford Motor Company in my psychology career, straight out of university, 2.5 years in, stuck in a job that I hated, I knew that I didn't want that, but I had no idea what I wanted. The way that I started to navigate moving toward what I did want, even though I didn't know what that was to let go of what doesn't work anymore. And that job that I had wasn't working. So I explored something completely differently. I entered into the world of real estate. And you know the story, if you listen to episode 111, the one just before this, I'll go into a lot more detail about other stuff around that. But the point I want to make here is that the way that I figured out that I wanted to learn how to become a creative, content creating, facilitating trainer, coach, to make an impact on people's lives, which is the case for a lot of people who listen to this podcast. The way that I landed on that was to try different things. Now, what needs to be functional in our lives to try different things? I mean, think about it. I had invested 4 years of my life at university to then find a job, which in the 1990s was extremely difficult to find a job related to your uni degree. So I was very blessed, very lucky. That gratitude only sort of carried me for about a year until I realized I was in the wrong job and I hated it. But the way I left that and to go into a completely different world of real estate sales, which I'd never considered in my life, was something grossly unfamiliar that had no reference points, is that the only way I could start to move or move away from what I didn't want anymore is to just move away from it to see what happens as I move forward. And as a result of working there, I got introduced to personal development, and personal development introduced me into the world of meditation. And then from there, I eventually landed on, oh my God, I want to have my own personal development business. Does that make sense? Now, that could not have happened if I had stayed in that cafeteria in Ford Motor Company and sat down and tried to figure it out by staring at my navel. Action and movement creates clarity, even though you don't know where it's taking you. And for this to work, we need to have a healthy relationship with uncertainty. We need to create a functional adult-like relationship with uncertainty. And most people correlate uncertainty with fear. Now, here's something I want to share with you about fear. Something that I thought about literally just the day before the recording of this podcast. And that is that fear is not a sign to stop. Fear is a sign to start. Think about that. Fear is not a sign to stop. It's a sign to start. When I was leaving Ford and going into and even contemplating the decision of going into the real estate space, even when I was contemplating and starting my business, do you think I was scared? Absolutely. I'd been an employee at that stage when I started my coaching business. I'd been an employee for 10 years. I was used to the automation of my finances because my income was coming in every month and I had holidays and everything was automated when it came to my money. But to go from that to no reference points and not knowing where the next $500 was coming from, well, that certainly is a very different experience. So most people don't have the emotional fitness to open their minds to try new things. Now, you're either an action taker. This is what I've actually sort of found in life. Fundamentally, there are kind of like two types of people in life. There are what I call the drifters and there are what I call the driven. This is a term I've borrowed from a fellow called Russell Brunson. I love this terminology. And, you and I know lots of people who are drifters. And it's the driven, the ones who take action, that work out in short periods of time. A short period of time could be 6 months, a year, 2 years. Work out what I'm meant to be doing. And then once you land on that, how that evolves and expands and continues to grow. So fundamentally, our relationship, becoming emotionally fit, means having a divine curiosity to try new things, to open our mind. So many of us remain unconscious victims of belief systems that are outdated, right? So we need to catch up with who we're becoming in order to embrace that relationship with uncertainty so we can grow, because uncertainty, as you've heard me share, for those of you who've followed my work for a while, uncertainty is the prerequisite. It's the primary seed of how we grow. You can't grow without it. Now, what's this got to do with the definition of getting the life that we want? What's this got to do with the 80-20 rule or the 90-10 rule? Everything. Because if you reverse engineer this, well, before we reverse engineer it, the point I'm making here is that our relationship with uncertainty is the 10%. A functional relationship, a resourceful relationship, a grown-up, psychologically mature relationship with uncertainty is the 10% that causes 90% of our results. Now, most people are focused on the other thing. They're doing the 90% of the causes that only bring in 10% of the consequences or the results. Let's reverse engineer this, because the point I'm making is that our relationship with uncertainty is the most crucial of all relationships we could possibly have. Let's swap that over, reverse engineer it. Let's pretend we've got a dysfunctional, unresourceful, immature relationship with uncertainty, which means that in our minds, we've correlated uncertainty to fear. And in our minds, we've let fear mean to stop. Well, what are we going to do? Like, what would have I done in Ford if that was my attitude, if that was my psychology? I would have elegantly justified why I should stay. I would have stayed. I would have stayed for too long. And guess what that does? I then get caught on the hamster wheel of life, where I'm managing a life or managing an income or a lifestyle that is not suited to who I am. Most people are caught up managing, earning a living. And guys, something I heard Tony Robbins share just recently in a podcast, which I thought was fantastic. He said, human beings are not designed to manage a humdrum life of the sameness and repetition every year. We're designed to create. We're designed to create. In order to create, we have to have a divine curiosity. Divine curiosity gives birth to a functional relationship to uncertainty. In other words, creativity and emotional fitness are arm in arm. They're together. They have to be. Because again, if we take emotional fitness away based on the definition of our relationship with the quality of our relationship with uncertainty, if we take that away, then there's no curiosity. We're not going to try new things. And this is the thing. Most people are either unconsciously, I reckon most people are unconsciously addicted to certainty, to predictability, to familiarity. Now, there's nothing wrong with security. There's nothing wrong with certainty. Of course, we need it in our lives as a base layer. But if it's not, so it just is a base layer. But for some people, it's not just a base layer. It's everything. I couldn't think of anything worse heading into 2026 if I was in a job, knowing exactly what my weeks were going to be, how many hours I was going to work, the salary I was going to make, which is capped, and when I'm going to be allowed to take holidays and escape my prison. I couldn't think of anything worse. Forgive me if I'm describing your life, but hey, if that's the life that you want, hey, I applaud you, rock on, go for it. But I just think when our life is racked and riddled in certain predictability and familiarity, that's one of the hundreds of roads that lead to depression and anxiety. Because the emotion that is behind all of that, behind depression especially, is anger. Now that's a whole other conversation. But that's anger with ourselves, anger and frustration with why haven't we reached the levels that we thought we would reach by now. In other words, I remember back in 2009 when I went to Date with Destiny with Tony Robbins, I remember one of the highlights for me was where he was talking about our blueprints. So in other words, the way that we think, our psychology, our mindset, and part of that is our relationship with uncertainty. and how that relates to what we're experiencing. Because at the age of 30, you would have had certain expectations of where you would be by the age of 35. You'd have certain expectations where you thought you'd kind of be at 40. We have all these sort of broad expectations of where we would be in our relationships, in our finances, in our health, in our vitality, in our businesses, in our careers at certain ages. And a lot of people are not where they thought they would be. Their expectations are a lot lower, like their reality is a lot lower than the expectations that they had. And in the world of emotional fitness, we say that expectations are the mother of all emotion. It's such a powerful contributor to how we feel. I mean, if you think about it, you could be going on a flight somewhere, and you're sitting in the lounge, and there's an announcement, and they say, "Hey, listen, just letting you know, giving you the heads up that because of technical difficulties, there's going to be no Wi-Fi available on this flight." So you're disappointed, but your expectations have been set, which is no Wi-Fi. And you get onto the plane, and then half an hour into the flight, "Hey, great news, guys. We've reinstalled everything and fixed everything. Our technical problems are no longer with us. You're going to have Wi-Fi available in the next minute." Suddenly, there's this joy because the experience of getting Wi-Fi is exceeding the expectations that we had. But really, if you think about it, Wi-Fi in an airplane is just our normal level of experience. But because our expectations were lowered and then when the expectations were risen to this, we feel happy and joyous. Or if you reverse that, imagine going onto the plane and you're on the plane and you're trying to do emails and do different things. And then they announce as you're taking off, "Hey, because of technical difficulties, we have no Wi-Fi available." Now we're going to be feeling shit because our expectations are not a match to what is like the environment is lower than the expectations that we have. You get my point. So our relationship with uncertainty is everything. It is the 10% that brings in 90% of our results. Uncertainty is embracing adventure, consciously inviting challenges into your life. One of my favorite sayings is, that I made up somewhere in a workshop once, is that life is either squeezing us or we are squeezing it. Don't give life a reason to squeeze you, because if life has to squeeze you into uncertainty, we're not going to like it. We should be the instigators of the squeeze, if that makes sense. We should be the ones consciously inviting uncertainty into our lives. Because remember, life demands that we grow. Life demands that we expand and evolve. It's just how it is. We're either growing or dying, expanding or shrinking, breathing out or breathing in. That's just how it is. So the point I want to make is to get the life that you want, to revert back to that definition from Naval, that intelligence is measured by our ability to get the life that we want. Or to get the life that we want, we have to have a functional relationship with uncertainty. Without that, we can't get the life that we want. We can't even begin to try new things. Is that making sense? So emotional fitness to me is everything. It's the cornerstone of great living. And so many people are living lives, as Edison said all those years ago, are living lives of quiet desperation where they've got everything set. Everything is, the certainty levels are like through the roof, predictability is through the roof, familiarity and safety is completely taken care of, but there's no sense of adventure. There's no openness to challenge. There's no curiosity about new possibilities. There's no wantingness to let go of the old land. Part of my theme for this year is to become or to realize or become everything I'm capable of, whatever that means. It means that there's conviction, there's commitment, all chips on the table. Let's do this. Let's go. That's the attitude that I've decided to bring into this year because I want to entertain more possibilities. Do you know what inspired this? And then I'm going to wrap up. In the gym, one of the gyms that I go to, there's a recovery room where we do these, what we call compression therapy, where you lie back on this chair and this compression technology helps recover from the previous run the day before or that morning. And anyway, lying back, just chilling, it's a 30-minute session. There's a fellow who walked into the room. There was just me and him. And this fellow, he would have been easily in his 80s, maybe even in his 90s. And he's lying there. We had a quick chat, just a quick hello. And then we just went into silence because it's so chill. It's just so relaxing. You just want to not talk to anyone. And I had a thought. I thought, imagine if this guy, so I'm 55, I'm imagining he's 95, he's at least 85. But imagine being him now. And I'm looking to my younger self at 55 at the age of 85. Have you become everything you could Did you bring everything that you could? Did you fulfill? Did you do everything you can within your power to fulfill your potential? Did you try new things? Did you embrace new ideas? Did you let go of beliefs that no longer work anymore? Did you have the presence of divine curiosity just to go out and give things a go? Did you do that? And I thought, wow, I'm 55. I've still got that opportunity to do that, because most people in their 80s and 90s, not all, but most people live with regret of not trying, regret of not embracing something different. Anyway, I'm going to wrap up now. So I just thought I'd share with you this definition based on Naval, which is, as I said, getting the life that you want. To get the life that we want, or to evolve from the life that we have already, um, we need to be emotionally fit. Emotional fitness is the realm of the psychological adult. Emotional fitness is embracing the inevitable problems that come in life. You know, I believe that whenever we step up, and whether we're, starting a new business, starting a new career, changing career path, whether we're trying different things into our lives, whether it's doing different things in our relationships, we've got to realize that every time we go and do something new and unfamiliar, we're investing in a new set of problems. And those new set of problems, I'll say that again, when we try new things, whatever that might be, career, relationships, when we're doing new things, being divinely curious and embracing the uncertainty, we're investing in the inevitable new set of problems that are going to come our way. None of it is smooth sailing. How boring would it be if it was smooth sailing? So those new problems are designed with one purpose in mind: to cause you to, yes, solve those problems, but to become bigger than what you are now, to become more expanded than what you are now, that those problems will contribute to your personal evolution. The purpose of those problems is to set you up for the next level of what life will bring to you. Because I don't know about you, but I think back to the year of 1996 when Silvana and I got married. Those people died a long time ago, and they wouldn't be able to handle the beginning of a new business, which was back in 2006, let alone the responsibilities of 2026. There is no way. They would implode in 3.5 seconds. So bring on the problems, bring on the challenges. Without them, we can't grow. The problems in there is where the uncertainty sits, or within uncertainty is where the problem sits. So embrace those. Please remember that if you're fair income about becoming or realizing all you can be to fulfill the destiny that you're here to fulfill, whatever that is that it means that you're constantly investing in a new set of problems, higher level problems. Because the biggest problem we can really have is not only to think that we're not meant to have any problems. That's just a complete illusion. But the biggest problem that really exists is if the problems that we have in 2026 are the same problems that we had in 2020 or 2021. If you're still dealing with the same problems, your relationship with uncertainty is what you need to look at. Work on your emotional fitness. Learn how to have a functional connection with what matters when it comes to our personal growth, which is via the doorway of uncertainty. Anyway, I hope there's something in this for you. Thanks for tuning in. I really, really appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing you very soon. Hey, listen, before we wrap up, just very quickly, if this resonates with you, of course, and you've enjoyed this episode, make sure you've subscribed. I'm very excited to share with you that for the first time ever in the history of my emotional fitness accreditation program, coming up on Feb 24, 25, 26, we're launching internationally. We're reaching the shorelines of Canada and the United States, and of course here in Australia and New Zealand as well. So keep an eye out for that. If you subscribe to this channel, or to whatever platform you're listening to this to, you will get notification on when we're launching that, which is very, very soon. And it's a 3-part series called the Emotional Fitness Bootcamp, where we get to explore powerful strategies on how we can continue to evolve and expand our relationship with uncertainty, so we can not only get the life that we want, but keep growing from there. And the ultimate joy, the ultimate sense of peace, the ultimate sense of fulfillment can only come from progress. And progress can only happen if we embrace the uncertainty and navigate those problems that we've invested in. Does that make sense? So you'll receive an email. If you've subscribed to this, you will get notification of when that event is coming. It's a free training. As I said, the Emotional Fitness Bootcamp, Feb 24, 25, 26. It's online. and they're 90-minute sessions, and all the details and that will come your way with you subscribing here. Thank you so much for tuning in. Much appreciated. See you soon. Bye for now. I trust you enjoyed this latest episode of the Insights Podcast and received great value. Please remember to subscribe and share your reviews, and I'll see you again very soon.